Salesforce formula fields can be intimidating to some, but they don't need to be. And in this mini presentation, I'm going to dissect the if function, which is one of the key building blocks in formula building across the Salesforce platform, not just in formula fields, but in reports. Formula fields contain many functions that you can select from. You need to see them as building blocks. The other key aspect of formulae is that often there are several ways to achieve the same result, and one can get a little bit tied up trying to figure out which way is the best. Well, the answer for me is the best way is the one that works. Yes, there are best practices, but some of those so-called best practices, frankly, are for the birds. They're the sort of mumbo-jumbo that architects in Salesforce get all excited about. Yes, it does matter some of the time, but if you're just learning, figure out a way that works for you and then use it. Just have at the back of your mind governor limits and not falling into the trap of technical debt. Those aspects are for another day. So let's have a detailed look at the if function. Building up from a business case, we have on our opportunity object a need from the business to display the next order discount value on the current opportunity, because the next order discount value is going to be a number that is subject to certain criteria, and our sales reps keep forgetting to put it in. So we're going to automate that for them, and that will make life easier and more consistent for everybody. This new field, next order discount value, in order to make it work, we're going to need a formula that calculates the number that we give to customers when the present opportunity is closed won. Obviously, we're not going to be calculating and giving discounts if the current opportunity is still open or it is closed but lost. So the formula needs to populate a field that's labeled next order discount value on the opportunity record. This presentation is at first principles level of how we build the formula itself, not so much around the clicks inside the platform. This is an adjunct to that part. Let's look at the rules. The rules are, number one, provided that the current opportunity is closed won and the current opportunity amount is greater than or equal to £25,000, the next order discount field will be populated with an amount of the current opportunity times 10%. In other words, a 10% discount is being applied at the next opportunity. Rule 2, where the current opportunity is closed won with amount less than £25,000, the next order discount value will be amount times 5%. And the third and final rule is where the current opportunity is closed, lost, or still open, the next order discount value is 0. So treat these as requirements that we have taken in our discovery process with our business on the sales team. And to develop this into the next stage, what we have here is a conditional formula situation, because it's not just a straightforward calculation of x times y minus z. It is an outcome depending on what conditions are in force at the time that the calculation is being done. When we have a conditional formula situation, there is a golden rule that we can apply, which is really rather simple, is that if we write down in words what the required outcome values are and how many outcomes we have, we've already done that because we've got the 3 rules, and each of those rules delivers a specific outcome to be calculated. With 3 possible formula values or outcomes that are required, which I'll list again: next order discount value amount times 10%, or amount times 5%, or 0, 3 outcomes, we need to use the if function. And this if function works exactly the same. If you may have seen it before inside an Excel spreadsheet, if you have seen this in Excel, you will be familiar with how it works. And if so, then this is probably laboring the point rather. So let's figure out how it works. We need to understand this because in these days of ever continuing advancements in artificial intelligence, where we can put in the question and the situation that we're looking to evaluate, AI will come up with a solution for us, hopefully. But here's the rub, and this has even happened to me. and I would consider myself experienced in such things. I was in a hurry in a video and I used AI. It was, in fact, Google Gemini, which I respect for being generally very good as a general AI. And I asked it to write me a formula for just this situation. And guess what? I looked at the formula and I thought, oh, that is very, very plausible. And I inputted it in, I recorded the video, I did a test, but I didn't do the testing properly. The AI had given me nonsense. It gave me a partially working formula, but it didn't deliver the proper job. I didn't check. Who's responsible for that? No one else but me. And this is the crux. If you don't understand what you're asking AI to do, you are basically winging it. You need to have an understanding so that when you get AI to do something for you fast, when you come to check and test it out, you make sure. If you don't understand it, then you won't actually know whether it's right or wrong. So how does the if function work? When you break it all down into component parts, it's quite straightforward. The if function is a simple logic test that will return one of two possible outcomes. And that depends on the result of the test being true or false. To put it another way, you take the condition that you want to test, and if it passes the test, in other words, it's true, then the great thing about the if function is that you can get it to deliver a value of your choice on the basis of it being true, and another value of your choice on the basis of the test coming out as false or untrue. So the test is the condition you want to check, and the syntax of the function looks like this. You write the letters if, and then you open a bracket, and then you have three parts inside, each separated by these commas. And then when you're done, you close the bracket. That is the syntax. That is the format that you would have to do, whether it was in Microsoft Excel spreadsheets or in Salesforce. So the first part is the logical test, highlighted here in yellow. Then, if the logical test is true, then whatever value you've asked for, if true, here in green, will be what the formula delivers. And if it's false, then it's whatever value that you have given it or told it to give to you will be the outcome. Let's look at a childish example. So in a childish example, you might be told by a parent, if you eat your vegetables, you can have dessert. If not, then no dessert. So it's a very simple logical test. You've eaten your vegetables, you get dessert. If not, no dessert for you. There's the test. Have you eaten the vegetables or not? Is that true or false? And there are two outcomes, dessert in this case or no dessert. If the vegetable's eaten, it's dessert or no dessert. And just to highlight that with an if statement, you have one logical test and two possible outcomes, the value if true or the value if false. To summarize it inside an if statement, we have vegetables eaten, the test, value if true, dessert, value if false, no dessert. Where do we take this? Well, where we need to use the if function, and in our case we have three possible outcomes, not two. So inside one if statement, we're not able to get all the answers out that we want. We can get two out of the three, and somehow we need to find a way to get the third. So we have a condition and another condition to be evaluated, and we somehow need to meld this together. We're going to need not one if statement, we're going to need two if statements in order to achieve this. And how do we know? Because we are just learning this for the first time. How do we know whether we need one if statement, two if statements, 10 if statements? Well, there is an easy way to figure it out. And that's why I said at the beginning that you need to establish in words what the outcomes are and how many you have. We have three rules leading to three outcomes. Because that number is three, I know that we therefore need two if statements, because the number of if statements, I keep calling them if statements, if functions, if statements, it's the same thing, needed to evaluate the logic is one less than the total number of outcomes. And that is one of these mathematical rules. So if we were to write it down a little bit more mathematically, we would say the number of if functions needed equals n minus 1, where n is the number of outcomes. So in our case, we have the number of outcomes 3, so n minus 1 is 2. We need two if functions, and that's how I arrive at it. If we need two if functions, we've got to have one nested inside the other to get the result we want. So let's build it up. We need, first of all, to build an if function to do the basic calculation. We want to return a result of amount multiplied by 0.1 if the amount is more than 25,000, or else return a value of amount multiplied by 0.05 in properly written if statement syntax that Salesforce will understand. We could do it like this. We have the if, we have the outer brackets, and we have the three parts inside separated by the two commas. And the amount, the logical test here in yellow, is the first part. Amount greater than or equal to 25,000. So that is a greater than or equal. That is the operator that you would use actually in the formula itself. And you can put spaces around that on either side of the greater than or equal to sign if you want or not. Either way, this is going to work. Then you drop in a comma, and then the amount is the field. So when you put in the amount, you go to the field inserter and you select the field called amount. The API name of the amount field, which is a standard field, is just the same. The label is amount and the API name is amount. So that's why you can just type it in if you want or use the selector. Value if true, amount times 0.1. Value if false, amount times 0.5. If we dumped that into the formula builder and saved it up with nothing else, then the next discount value field would always evaluate and give a number that would just pivot solely on whether the amount was more than 25,000 or not. Well, that of course is not enough. We need the opportunity one part to also be involved with this. What we do next, we know that we need another if statement. Do we put two side by side? No, we need to wrap one around the other. Let's expand the formula to evaluate if the opportunity is closed won, because that's the only basis that we want this calculation to take place in the first place. Closed lost or other non-closed stages mean the discount calculation doesn't need to be done at all. The overall evaluation then leads to our third outcome, a default value of 0. In words, if we condense it down to the minimum possible words inside an if statement, we have if, open the brackets, the logical test, the opportunity is closed won. That's what's being tested. Value if true, highlighted here in green, is if the opportunity is closed won, then the evaluation of the amount percentage will occur. If the opportunity is not closed won, if this statement here is false, the value is 0. And that's it. That's the end of it. But what is this? Well, if we just take this one step further, because the opportunity is closed won, how do we affect that test? Because we can't write the words in the Salesforce formula, the opportunity is closed won. It won't understand that. But what it will understand is this. There is a field that is called won, which has an API name of is1. And many people don't know that because it's not a field that even appears on a page layout. It's a system field which hides itself below the surface, but it is really well worth being aware of it because you can use it in all sorts of evaluations. We'll come back to how you find it in the next slide. But if we take this, the logical test is 1, evaluate the amount percentage if true, 0 if not, the full formula is almost ready because this will work. We just need this, and then the 0 part will obviously work. So what do we do? Between the brackets and after the first comma, we need to just drop in the previous if statement that we built, which does the calculation. We take out this and we put in that other if statement. Just before I reveal that, this is one field. If you, in the formula builder, click on insert field, assuming that you're on the opportunity object, then the opportunity will be the top here. And then in this box, there are all the fields that are on the opportunity. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, because it's an alphabetical listing, you get to a field called 1. And you'll be scratching your head because you think, well, I've never seen that field. It's not on page layouts. You can't put it on the page layout. It's not available. But it is nevertheless there underneath. And when I click on it here, it says you have selected is 1. And what type of field is it? It's a checkbox. And it has an API name, is 1. So the field label, if you like, is 1. The API name is 1. And then if you click insert, that will squirt into the formula for you. So that is the most efficient and the most clean way to establish this condition. It's worth bearing in mind that this field is an excellent reference field in all sorts of formulae that you might be using for opportunities around the platform, for example, in reports. So all we do is delete out these words here, and then we take if is 1, there's the test, drop in the comma, value if true is this if function here, another comma, value if false. Close the bracket. So you have 2 brackets that are open and then 2 that are closed off. They must always be balanced. If you put that in, this will deliver the goods for you. You have exactly the working field that the business has asked you to give them. So I just want to finish it off by saying that you can take this a step further, and when you set it out inside the formula builder, there is a pro move, which is one of these things that I'm not actually that brilliant at myself, because I come from a Microsoft type of background where inside spreadsheets you just put formulae in as a continuous line of text. But inside Salesforce, the developer fraternity like to put in a developer style of layout that will look something like this, where the formula is split up into components with these various indents. So you have the outer if and the first test, then the inner if with the first test inside that, value if true of the inner if, value if false of the inner if, and then finally value if false of the outside if. You can set it out like that so that when you come to look at the formula, or other people come to look at the formula later, you help them to figure it out. Now, let's take what we've learned into a live situation on the platform. I've already built the next order discount value field on this as part of the exercise. The field next order discount value has these details here with some help text like this here. We can see the formula in here. It's a currency field, 2 decimal places, and this is 1 field. As I showed you in the screenshot, it came from here, scroll down, click there, and there is 1, and then you would just insert it where you need it in the formula. So we're not going to disturb this. This is exactly what we saw in the slides. I'm going to cancel that. Let's go to the Sales app, click Sales. I'm in Opportunity, and I'm going to select the private client record type, click Next, and we'll make the amount, we'll start it off as 20,000, and we'll set a close date, end of the month, opportunity name. I'm giving it the name Test the Next Discount Value Field, and I'm going to start it off at an early stage of inquiry. We'll click that on Save. We'll have a look at the details, and the next order discount value is 0. That's perfect. That's just what we want. Let's up the amount to 30,000. Save that out. That should give us a 10% discount if it was 1. It's not 1. So the next order discount value resolutely stays at 0. Brilliant. The formula is working so far. Let's just move it along to the next stage. That stage has changed, but no discount. The logical test has failed. It's a false, hence the 0. Now, let's select a close stage, but I'm going to select close lost first. Close lost, successful stage change. Next order discount value is 0. Exactly what we want. Let's have another go at this. Let's change it to closed 1. Nice bit of confetti. And we've got a next order discount value of £3,000. So that is very good news indeed. And let's now check that the calculation part of that works, we'll drop the value. I'm going to drop the value to exactly 25,000 because when you do the checking about greater than or less than type conditions, you want to make sure that you're exactly the trigger point to ensure that it's working properly. Click Save, and that should take us to 5%. I beg your pardon, that is still a 10% because it's greater than or equal to. So we will take £1 off this, 2499999, save. Now, there we go. There is the 5% calculation done to 2 decimal places. We can satisfy ourselves that this formula is absolutely working. Okay, so while I'm here, there is something else that I want to show you. So you will see other ways to do if statements around whether an opportunity is won or lost or some other stage. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The principle of the ifs is all the same, but I'm also going to show you why this can be problematic. I have another field, which is not part of your homework, but this is for demonstration purposes only, called Sales Rep Commission in here, which is another formula field. And this one is the same calculation of commission, pivoting on the same 25,000 number and also the same condition of 1. For obvious reasons, you're not giving a sales rep any commission unless the opportunity is closed and won. Still open or lost, no commission. How can we do that? I just created a new field which is called Sales Rep Commission, and the criteria are exactly the same. 10% and 5% depending on more than or equal to 25,000, and obviously an opportunity that is won. Closed, lost, or still open is a 0 commission situation. So we can do this another way using if statements because we are looking not at the is won field, but we are looking at the stage field. And the formula to do that necessarily has to look something like this. By and large, it's a fine way to do it, but I'm just going to show you what the limitations are. Instead of is won, we are looking at the specifics of the stage. But in our case, it's all about the closed one. And to look at the stage, because the stage is a pick list that has text values in the list, we have to use this function called isPickVal. And isPickVal is down here. It returns true if the pick list value equals a literal string, which means whatever the string is in between the quotes that you ask it to test for. So that needs to be exactly as it is on the field that includes case sensitivity and spaces. In our case, it's closed one. The syntax works with isPickVal is that you have isPickVal, then you have inside the 2 brackets, you have the field that's been tested and the value that you're looking to see if it is true or false. So the value has to then be placed inside these quotes. In this case, the formula is the outer if statement. The logical test is the value of stage name closed one, yes or no. We only bother with the inner if statement or calculation if it is closed one, and that bit is done here, which is exactly the same as in the other version. If that doesn't evaluate to being true, all of this is missed out, and then it picks up and drops in the 0, which is the value if false of this outer if statement, and it's as simple as that. So it looks a little bit more wieldy, but in some ways it's not too troublesome to understand. There we have no syntax errors. No syntax errors is a good start. It's no guarantee because you can have good syntax and incomplete logic. Right, so that is already, I'll just save it again just to make sure. Now, where can we see this? Well, this is on my org, and I placed the field in here for the sales reps commission. Here we have an opportunity with an amount of £25,000. I'm just going to drop it down to 2499 and we'll then start the test that way. So that makes no difference, and just for what it's worth, this will shadow exactly the next order discount value. But the formula here is the one that we saw earlier in the slides. using is1. This one is the one that's using is_pick_val. Okay, let's take this up through the stages. This record type is for private client. Mark that up as the current stage. It still remains open. Successful change. No sales rep commission. Let's close it off to a lost. No commission. For what it's worth, no discount on the next opportunity either. We were wrong. It's actually closed won. Click save. In comes the confetti. And because the amount is just less than 25,000, here's the 5% sales commission mirroring the 5% discount value of the next opportunity for the customer. All so far so good. All is working well. We just need to do something else. We can check, is this going to change the percentage of commission if we nudge it up to 25,000? Let's have a look. Brilliant. Now we have commission of 2,500 and that shadows this here. Well, a lot of people might say, great, so what? There are two versions that deliver exactly the same result with perfectly correct outcomes in terms of the business logic. And is any one better than the other? Well, it's really very debatable, and it depends on the constrictions that you're under at the time and exactly what you have to evaluate. Personally, I prefer is1. Does that mean this is wrong? No, not necessarily, because is_pick_val is without a doubt acceptable for use. Salesforce wouldn't have put it there if they didn't want you to use it. Evaluating what's going on in terms of the contents of pick lists is something that you have to do all the time. But here's where it counts in the instance of our use case of the CDS company and the way the opportunity object has been set up with 3 record types, with 3 business processes and 3 sales paths, all being different. What I'm driving at is that one of the sales paths, you don't have closed lost or closed won to pick out. So what do you do then? Because when the stage name is looking for closed won, it's not going to work. And I'll show you. I have an opportunity. It's here. Builds, test, sales process and path. Non-profit. It's the non-profit record type that this applies to. So if we explore this, the sales rep commission field is actually located down here. I've added this. It's got nothing to do with the homework. I've put it in because it works for the demonstration. The sales rep commission is showing as 0. This is not in a closed stage, but if I was to close it, I select closed. Watch this. The pick list for these stages, there is no closed won or closed lost. I can have one-off order. That's one version of closed won. I click save and it's won. That's it, or green all the way through. The commission, it's not showing because it's looking for closed won and it ain't there. The regular order is also a version of a 1 stage. No, not showing. If we go to not eligible, save that out. Not eligible, it's red, it's over. If you have chosen this method using is_pick_val, and you just had the one record type where the stage finishes with closed won or closed lost, everything is hunky-dory. But now that the business has put in these new requirements for 3 record types, where we now have one of the record types using these particular stage names for closed won and closed lost, your formula isn't going to work anymore. In a way, you have what might be classed as technical debt, because using closed won and closed lost is a very straightforward and easy. If you're asked to bring in this record type, now you have some work to do to go and either completely change the formula and rework it and then test it on all the existing records, or you just amend the formula to not just evaluate where it looks for closed won, but you get it to evaluate where it looks for one-off order and regular order. And so where do you draw the line? Because if the business comes back another day with another record type that they want you to use, with another set of stage values that they want you to use that have some different naming, then again, that formula needs to be edited. If you have a choice, you need to have at the back of your mind, what if they do this to us? Which is the better formula to use? But in some instances, the whole condition is evaluated on the pick list, and the pick list and nothing else will do, well, then you have no choice. So you have to use your judgment. So for what it's worth, you can modify the formula like this, and we can take advantage of the OR function. The OR function is in the listing here. It is another logical test. There it is, it's gone out of the way. It checks whether any of the arguments are true and returns true or false. The false return is only returned if all the arguments are false. In other words, it will return a true if any one of these are true. So what we're doing is we're exploring the pick list value in the stage name of the opportunity, and we're encapsulating all the different versions of closed won across the record type. You've got closed won itself, one-off order, and regular order. It's as simple as that. You insert each pick list test, and then you close out that OR, and that is the overall logical test of the outer part, and then the inner part is the calculation. Testing the syntax, that is already saved in place. We'll go in and test it. This is my non-profit, which has these unusual pick list values for closed won and closed lost. Inquiry is the current stage. The commission is 0, just what we want. By the way, the amount is 25,000. So what we expect if we win is 2,500 in terms of commission. On the meeting, nothing. On not eligible, we want that to be nothing, and it remains nothing. But on one-off order, that's green. Here we go, £2,500. What if it was a regular order? So then it stays fully green, and there we have the 2,500. Just tickle the number back down to 4. Take £1 off, we see nothing, we still see nothing. Not eligible, we see nothing. Regular order, there we see 5%. And because we're thorough in our testing, we'll check one-off order and we still see 5%, which is meeting all the conditions. So it is working absolutely beautifully. And there is nothing wrong with that formula. You can use it and abuse it, but as part of your overall education, I hope that I've shown you that way you never have to come back and do any editing if the business is asking you to put in record types with different stage names that are representative of closed won. Okay, let's wrap it there, and I hope that's been useful.